Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Super Game Brothers, a weekly board game and video game podcast. This is episode number 4, and my name is David. I will be the host today, and I am joined, like always, by my younger brother, Devin.
Hi.
How are you this evening?
I'm thriving. The cops were just here.
Just opened right with the police. Love it.
Yeah. No, I'm doing good. Excited to be here.
Good. For anyone that doesn't know, Devin is playing parent to a couple teenagers this week, so I'm sure that's been a blast.
Mm-hmm. It's
cool. Well, other than that, how are you doing, Devin? How's the spring treating you? It's starting to get warm.
Yeah.
Here,
I've spent a bit of time outside getting some sun. I would say I have a little bit of a skin tan, slightly.
That's better than me. My skin is always white as Casper the Ghost.
Oh yeah, I get it. I've got crazy freckles like everywhere from trying to skin tan year after year after year. Don't recommend it. It's not my favorite.
I had to have a mole removed a few months ago. Yeah, that was fun. Not fun. I hate needles and knives on my skin generally, even though I have a health condition, so I have to get a shot like every 8 weeks. So shots aren't the worst, but getting a shot in a mole, watching it like raise like crazy and go numb, and then watching them slice it off. Yeah, not a huge fan of that one. Luckily, they never called me back, and they said no news is good news. So at this point, I may have cancer, but they just haven't told me. So,
I mean, I would rather not know.
That's true. Mm-hmm. No news is good news, and then you die.
Yep.
That's
I live
how
in
life
ignorance
works.
on purpose.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's been nice to be a little warmer. I don't want it to get any warmer than it is right now, though. And I know in like a week it's going to be 90 or something, and I'm going to hate my life.
Yeah, it gets a little bit excessive, but it has been nice. The evenings have been amazing.
Yeah, that's true. Evenings are nice. What I don't love is I have a small little house, and we have a front lawn and a back lawn. So we have lawn. With lawn comes a lot of crap, and mainly the thing I hate most about it, because I love mowing the lawn. That's nice. Like pop in some your headphones, listen to some music or a podcast like this one out every Monday for free. Or every Friday if you join us on Patreon. You can get it 3 days early on Patreon. So yeah, you can check that out. But yeah, I love popping in something good, mowing the lawn. It's a good feeling. Even like using the weed whacker. Though I don't feel like weed whacker is the accurate term for those. I don't know that that's what a wise person would call it. Is it like a string trimmer? Like
a string trimmer? I would say maybe
I'm not
an
sure.
edger. No.
An edger, yeah. Well, edgers are the ones that like have the little blade that goes down.
Oh, that you use near the sidewalk.
Yeah, to like cut the grass away from the sidewalk, I think. But maybe they call them edgers, I'm not sure. Anyways, I like that kind of stuff. Then you plug the battery into the leaf blower, blow the crap out of all of that, get it off the lawn. That's a good feeling. The part I don't like is everything else related to the grass. You got the fertilizer, you got the sprinklers. Sprinklers every year, you turn them on and they're like pointed in different directions. There's like a sprinkler fairy that goes around every winter and just messes with the pressure and the direction.
Hate the sprinkler fairy.
Yeah. Since it's a family-friendly show, we'll call them the sprinkler fairy, but I'd probably have a meaner name for them. But then the worst part is the weeds and trying to get your grass to be green, especially in a state as freaking hot as Utah. Man, my grass is... I've tried everything that I know of, apart from paying like a fertilization company, because for some reason I refuse to do that. I will die on yellow grass before I pay somebody to fertilize my lawn. So I throw all kinds of stuff on it. The pellet fertilizer, I have one of those little things you push that shoots the pellets out. It's kind of a nice one. I also have this big backpack sprayer that will do liquid fertilizers. It'll hold 4 gallons. So it's like a big heavy thing, weighs like 50 pounds when it's on you. And it's also battery powered, so once it's going, you can just spray forever as you walk. Super nice. Used all of those. These crazy looking weird kind of organic fertilizers. Man. Always got dandelions, grass never green. So I don't know what the trick is. I think you have to make a deal with the devil for that to work. And our brother-in-law has probably the nicest lawn I've ever seen in my life. So now I think he probably made a deal with the devil.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. Anyways, what's your opinion on the lawn care?
I don't have a lawn. I never bought a lawn.
Don't recommend buying one.
I've taken care of lawns, kind of. I've mowed and weed whacked. That's about it. So, I mean, I don't really love it.
Do you like those two things? No, that's a no.
Okay. I mean, from the second I start, I would say I'm looking forward to it ending.
Yeah, that's generally true.
Does that mean I dislike it?
That's a good question, because there's a lot of things that I want to end that I kind of like. Like, I'm kind of looking forward to the end of this podcast already. We just started. But I like doing this. And, I like when I'm playing like a fun board game or video game, I'm like, yeah, I'm having a good time, but I'm excited to see how it ends. Mm-hmm. Or the game might go a couple rounds too long, and I'm like, all right, I know I'm losing. I just want this to be over. So I don't think we hate everything that we want to end, but that generally isn't a good sign. If we are really loving it, then we probably wouldn't want it to end. So you've probably got a point. So yeah, that's kind of been my spring life so far. Lots of dandelions, but we'll see if they go away. Other than that, the only other news here in my household is we got unlimited internet finally. Usually if you are with Xfinity, in our region at least, they have a stupid data cap. And so you come up with all these different schemes to get around the data cap. Basically, since I play a ton of video games that are humongous, I have to be strategic about which ones I download when and make sure I don't re-download anything. So I have my PlayStation 5 it's like 800 and something gigabyte drive inside of it. And then I've put a 2 terabyte NVMe drive inside. So I have extra storage in there. And then I have a 5 terabyte hard drive plugged in the back. So I have like 7.5 terabytes of storage on that thing. And it's all full because I download a game, God of War Ragnarok, whatever it is, 75 gigabytes or something. And then I don't want to delete it because in case there's DLC or something, I don't want to re-download it because I'll blow through my data cap if I re-download too many things, and they ding you so bad. It's I don't even know, $10 for 5 gigabyte. That's not right, probably, but it's ridiculous. And so I don't know. With this podcast, a nice thing about it is we have to upload a lot of stuff to YouTube, and so out of necessity, I had to upgrade to unlimited data, or else I was going to blow through the data cap anyways. So a byproduct of that is I no longer have to worry about what I download on, my console or on my PC. So tomorrow, probably going to download the next gen version of Fallout 4. Don't even know if I'll play it, but 100 gigs, I don't care.
Oh yeah, we don't care.
Yeah,
you're gonna love it. I love having unlimited internet. It's the greatest.
Yeah, that's probably that's the only thing really going on in my household that's much different, but that's kind of an exciting thing for me. I need to figure out what I'm going to do with all those 7 terabytes of storage, though, because probably a lot of things I could delete now. But what are we talking about? I don't know. This is a video game and board game podcast. Like I mentioned at the top, we film it every week. It is free every Monday at 9 a.m. So whatever Mountain Time. So whatever podcast service you use, you can download it there for free on Mondays. If you want to check us out on Patreon, that is how we support kind of the show continuing long-term into the future. And you can get all kinds of perks there. You can submit questions to the show. You can get extra episodes. Some of those recently have been us playing some board games, or I returned to Marvel Snap. So kind of some exclusive videos over there. And also get early access to the show. Get your name in the credits if you want to have your name in the credits of a lawn care and unlimited data podcast, then that'd be cool. So yeah, check us out on Patreon. That is patreon.com/supergamebrothers. But yeah, that is kind of everything new with me. So we're just going to hop right in today, I think, to what we've been playing, since there's a lot of news, lots of stuff to go over. And like usual, we will start with the video games we've been playing. I'll start since I don't have much of an update, actually. I've continued my playthrough of Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. I've actually played quite a bit. I've recorded 12 playthrough segments. I think only 4 or 5 of them are live on YouTube at this point, but they'll be coming out probably a video a day or every other day until they are all out. And I think I'm almost done with the game. Fought another boss fight that was a pretty cool one. It's a 2D game, but that boss was in kind of this forest area, and the boss would jump like forward or behind, kind of into the foreground or the background. It was a fun fight. I still really like the game. I think the boss fights are kind of the highlight. Some of the other, when you're like backtracking and running back through an area and you have to fight the same enemy a bunch of times, I'm like, okay, I just want to get to the next boss fight. This is a little grating. But that might be my own doing because I'm trying to get like every collectible and stuff, so I'm running around more than I probably should be if I just wanted to beat this game. But really solid, like I've said in the past few weeks, high production values, art is really pretty, voice acting's good. So strong endorsement still for that game. Excited to see how it ends, to see if how it wraps up and if that helps or hurts my opinion of it. But that is the only video game I've been playing this week. I have a few that I'm excited to try. The new expansion for Final Fantasy 16 just came out, and I've played probably 25 hours of that game. I think it's been probably 6 months, so I might just start back over from the beginning. Might even record it for YouTube channel. We'll see. So that one's kind of calling my name. There's this small indie game that's also been blowing up lately called Balatro. I really want to try that one. So I might either just bite the bullet and buy it because it's like 10 or 15 bucks, or check out the demo. I think they have an hour demo or something. And then there's a couple other demos I want to try. That might be a new segment on YouTube. It's just me trying demos to decide if I want to play a game. I think that's probably a better view of if I'll like the game than me just watching videos about it or reading about it. There's this one game called Unicorn Overlord that I kind of want to try. And I think the demo is the first 7 hours, which is pretty impressive. I'm like, man, that's probably the longest demo I've ever heard of. So I'm excited to try a few of those. And I feel like at this point I'm just rambling about stuff that I might talk about in this segment in the future. But Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown is really good. So recommend that. It's on sale right now in the PlayStation sale that just started today. I think it's called the May Savings Sale because for some reason it's almost May 2024. But yeah, Prince of Persia is great. And that is all that I've been playing this week. Devin, I know you've been playing a few different games, but I think they're pretty similar, or at least in the same series.
There's always a sale, by the way. We were just in the spring sale.
Oh, I know. It's kind of, it's dumb. Basically, if there's always a sale, then you always feel like you want to buy something. And so I think it's like a head game trick where they're like, okay, yeah, the sale ended yesterday, but we're going to start a new one tomorrow.
Yeah.
And the sale last week had 1,000 games in it. And the sale this week has 1,500. Some of them will be the same games, some of them will be different games, but you're going to buy them all because it's a sale.
Oh yeah, I definitely am.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
I bought all 1,500.
I've been playing a few new games. I've been jumping between all of the Fallout series for the first time, all due to the TV show. So we started. What did we start with? We started with Fallout 4. It was very janky, very framey, even on the PS5, which was surprising. Jumped to 76.
I don't think it has.
Does it not have
I don't
60
think
frames?
Fallout 4 has any update since the PlayStation 4 version, so it was just kind of running that backwards compatible PlayStation 4 version.
I see.
I think they would have had to release a patch, but as of yesterday, if you're listening to this on Patreon, or 3 or 4 days ago if you're listening to this free, there is the new next-gen version, so of Fallout 4. Anyways, didn't mean to interject.
No worries.
Go ahead.
So we kind of left that game alone for now, knowing that there was going to be a next-gen upgrade, and we jumped over to Fallout 76, which is a completely different beast. Very fun game to play with friends. Side note, it is co-op or multiplayer. It's kind of an open world multiplayer. There's a lot of events going on, very arcade-ish. I think we kind of talked about this last week, so I won't dive in too much, but super fun. You can upgrade really quick because people can sort of boost you slightly by, giving you weapons, giving you armor, making you pretty unkillable, and taking you to kind of end game nuke type events. I don't know. That's what we were doing today. Fun game. We also dabbled in Fallout New Vegas, which, as old as it is, I want to say 2010, it's almost 15 years. What a fantastic game. We did stream this on Twitch, and it led to us kind of speedrunning the game on accident. A lot of people who are diehard fans of the game would come in and basically say, hey, I know this secret if you want to skip 6 hours of the story. And so we did it, just being nice, because you do need a little help in Fallout games. They're very, very confusing. You don't really know what missions to do. You've got about 15 active missions at once, so you want to disable them all, so it's more linear. So we ended up pretty much beating the entire story of New Vegas in 8 to 10 hours. It was very, very fast. We tried to hop on there today. The save was gone. And so we actually
the entire save was just gone?
It said we were like 7 hours in. And I was like, interesting, which pretty much got rid of everything we did yesterday. And I was like, I don't want to replay that. So we just went back to Fallout 76. Did a lot more end game stuff in there today. And that game's fun. I think it has a huge following just because you can play with people. Honestly. The graphics are better. It's smoother. You're getting way more frames. But I was telling chat and everyone today, I don't know why I slept on Fallout games. Like, truly, they're incredible. Like, I don't know how to explain it, but they are very, very, very good, very deep, very funny, and random. There's so much lore if you want to get into it. Hidden secrets. There's different ways to spec your characters, and just massive. Highly recommend Fallout games.
Yeah, it seemed like a fun time. I thought New Vegas looked the most interesting to me too. The story seemed cool. There were some interesting characters like the king of the strip or whatever, and some other characters. And yeah, just seeing like the Vegas Strip kind of in a post-apocalyptic mode was cool. So I thought that one looked cool. And then watching you play 76 just kind of seemed like craziness. I think I had to step out for some work stuff, but I came back and there was like this scorch beast looking dragon flying above, and then there was like this dire giant crab looking thing, and they were all like queen, and they were all attacking you guys at the same time. And I think there was literally like 12 of you in this public event. It kind of looked like crazy madness. But
yeah, basically I was put into endgame activity with a bunch of very, very high level characters. Like I was level 33, and we were playing with people who were 1,300, which is insane. And I had no ammo. So I was just there. So I was just
There are no
holding my
level
fists up, and the dragons were flying, and I just waited for everyone else to take out the big guys, and then I got the XP and the loot.
Nice.
Yeah, so that's kind of how you can be boosted in that game.
Yeah, that makes sense. It did look fun, though. I saw you shooting some stuff as well during maybe one of the other public events, but yeah, running around with your fists, punching dragons, you know, there you go.
Yes.
Cool. Well, yeah, Fallout, man,
work.
yeah. Fallout's been crazy big lately. There was a report that they had like 5 million players, I think, just because of renewed interest in the show. Yeah, 5 million users in one day due to the TV series popularity. That's probably spread against like all of the different games, 3, 4, New Vegas,
right,
76. But that's a lot of people playing Fallout. So yeah, we'll talk a little bit more about that a little later. But it has been fun to kind of see you jump into all those different games in a short time period. So glad you've been enjoying it. That's really it for video games, I think, Devin, unless there was anything else you wanted to say about them.
Nope, I don't think I've been playing anything else except for Clash Royale. So
cool. That's still going well?
Not really. Everyone's toxic in that game.
Really?
Yes, extremely. It's like, you know what I find funny about that is there's a 50-50 chance of winning a Clash Royale match.
Mm-hmm.
And if they beat you, it's as if they won something with the odds of the lottery. They're laughing at you, saying wow, saying thanks. It's like, you had a coin toss chance of winning this game. It's really not that impressive. We're also both very high leveled. And I don't know. People are funny in video games. Yeah,
for real. It's only canned chat messages that you can send to, like Rocket League, right? Like wow and thanks. And
you cannot free type.
You can't free type. Yeah. Okay. That's what I thought. It's crazy. Again, those canned responses, you can be such a jerk with them. Somehow. It doesn't make sense, but or like the emoji things you can send over. I think you can send like animated emoji things over too, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I get the yawn emoji sent to me all the time. Like, oh, it was so easy to beat you. On to the next. Thank you.
I wonder what they think they're accomplishing. Is like, okay, if I crush his spirits and his soul, maybe he'll never play again and I'll be rated higher.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know either. Because even in like Rocket League when we used to play together a lot, I would notice that too. I'm like, what do they think they're accomplishing?
Yeah, it's bad, man.
But man, griefing in video games, it's a tale as old as time, I guess. So it'll probably be around forever.
Yep, I think so too.
Sometimes it doesn't make sense. Well, cool. Yeah, that's it for video games we've been playing this last week. Like I mentioned, I've got a few I'm eyeing, so we might have some new stuff next week. All right, for board games that we've been playing, I've got a couple, and then maybe between those two, we'll talk about one that Devin and I played together as well. So the two games that I've played this last week are two of my favorites. Really like. This first one's a tiny little card game. I don't remember if I've talked about it on the show before, but it's called District Noir. Devin, you probably can't see it because for some reason my face is super frozen on our shared video chat. So anyways, it's a tiny little card game. Comes in a very small box. I think you can get the game for $10 to $15. And in this card game, it takes place over 4 rounds. And in every round, you'll have 5 cards. And these cards, there's a few other cards, but the majority of these cards look like these here. They'll have a 5, a 6, a 7, or an 8 on them. There are 5 cards, 6 cards, 7 cards, and 8 cards in the deck. And your goal is to win the game, obviously. And the 2 win conditions are to have the most points at the end of the 4 rounds. Or you immediately win if at any point during the game you you have in your hand and the the section in front of you, kind of your tableau, these 3 city cards. And so how it works is in a round, both players have 5 cards, but both players will take 6 turns in the round. Between the two players is a little row of cards, and they'll take turns adding a card from their hand to that row of cards. And so back and forth, you'll do that until one turn of the round. You can, instead of playing a card down from your hand, you can pick up the last 5 cards from that line and put them in kind of your area in front of you. And then that's the end of the round. Both players will do those things. They will play a card down 5 times, and they will pick up the last 5 cards once. When you do that is up to you. I could, pick up those 5 cards at any point during my 6 turns of the round, but very simple game to play because those are your only options. But man, the head game that goes on with this game is nuts, and it's all due to that second win condition of getting the 3 city cards. Because I could have, if anybody gets 2 city cards, the rest of the game is like destroyed for the other player because their entire focus is I cannot take cards before the other person because I can only take cards once in the round. And if they have that city card like in their hand and I've taken cards before them, then they'll just play it down, and then on their next turn they'll be able to take the 5 cards from the middle row and they'll have all 3. And so I don't feel like I explained that super well, but there's just so much pressure in the game, even though it only takes like 10 to 15 minutes to play. And it's really great. It's one of the best 2-player card games I think I've ever played. And the more times you play it with the same person, you start to get more in their head as well. My wife and I have played this game probably 15 times, I would say.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, just because it plays so quick, we'll play 3 or 4 times just right in a row. And yeah, it's really, really great. Just so simple. I would, this word gets thrown around a lot, but I'd maybe even call it like elegant because it's so simple. Really teach it in like 2 minutes, but there's quite a bit of depth there. And I really like it when games have a second win condition. It doesn't work for every game because you can't have like a second win condition in something with a lot of players that, takes 2 hours usually, because if there was that, it'd like totally ruin the game for everyone else. But sometimes it's cool to have like this I win immediately kind of thing if the game's short enough. But yeah, just that little bit is awesome. Before the round or the game starts, you shuffle the deck of cards and take out, I think, just 3 cards and put them back in the box without anyone looking at them. And so if you're going for that strategy of shooting the moon and getting the 3 city cards, one of them might even be in the box and it might not be possible.
Wow.
But just because you don't know if it's there or not, there's just a lot of unknowns. What do the other player have in their hand? What are they going to put down this turn? And so it's all about playing bad cards when you think your opponent is going to have to take the 5 cards from the center, and then being able to play good ones before you take the 5 cards from the center. Very, very simple, but man, I think everybody should have this game in their collection. So small, so inexpensive, and just about as good as a 2-player card game can be. Unless, if you're looking for something that's like more of a one-on-one battler, like a Pokemon or Disney Lorcon or something. This is very different than that. This is more like set collection. I'm trying to get sets of these cards or win with the shoot the moon thing. But yeah, District Noir is great. Highly recommend that. I think it was in my top 10, maybe top 20 games of all time in my top 100 list that I have up on my gaming top-down YouTube channel. So you can check that out too if you would like. So yeah, that's District Noir. It's a super game. The other one, I'll talk about my other one really quick that I played this last week is called World Wonders. It just came out, can't remember if it was the end of last year or early this year. It is a game about building your own little civilization on this board in front of you. And how it works is kind of unique too. It has this, you have your own player board And on every turn you have 7, or not every turn, every round you have 7 coins that you can spend. And those coins can be spent for different things. You can spend them to buy these road pieces. You can spend them to buy different buildings that might cost like 3 or 4. And then how you place them on your board. Hopefully this loads in for you, Devin, in a second so that you can see what I'm talking about. I'm just holding the game on my shoulder until it does. But so when you buy these buildings, they have different costs depending on how big they are. And you can also buy, like, I want to be first next round. That costs a coin or 2. And then there's special buildings that kind of the game is named after, world wonders. So you can see, like, on the back of the box there's the pyramids. And there's, like, the Great Wall of China. And probably 20 to 25, I would say, wonders in the game. And they're very unique. How they work is there are 3 of them out at any one time, and you can't just buy them. You can only buy them when you have the necessary pieces out that you can place them. So like the pyramids might say on their card, it has to be next to water and next to a purple building and next to a road or something like that. And so you can only buy the pyramids if you can place them in some way that it would make that work. The other unique thing about the wonders is the wonders cost all of your remaining gold for the round. Doesn't matter if you have 1 left or 7 left. So you really want to buy them late in the round so that you can get them for 1 or 2 coins. But if someone else buys them before you, then you won't get it. So that tension is like super high of, is this player going to steal this before I can get it? So I might overpay for this wonder. I might pay 5 coins because I really want it, when I think, Bob over there is going to steal it next turn. So lots of tension in that game, and it's a fun puzzle, kind of building your own little civilization there. And the wonders are really cool. Every other piece in the game is cardboard, so like the roads and the buildings are cardboard pieces, but the wonders are these nice big wooden pieces that also take up like a number of squares in your hex grid. So you just place them right on your player board next to the cardboard pieces, and they fit like they should. And so it looks really cool, like you're building this cool little civilization in front of you. This game's been pretty popular this year in the last 6 months. So I know that a lot of people that are in the hobby board gaming space have probably already heard of it and have an opinion on if they like it or not. But I think it's really great. I'll probably have a review for it up on my Gaming Top Down channel fairly soon. A couple last minute opinions I need to form, but it's going to at least get a gold trophy from me there. It's very solid. I think I'll have it for a long time. So that is World Wonders and District Noir from me. And then Devin, we played a game together that I know you hadn't played before, and I know can be a little bit of a bias in the first play of something when you're trying to learn it, and then also not, lose, and so that can be a little tricky. But we played Paper Europe. It's a pretty small card game. Comes in this box here with cool art by Keymaster Games. I really like Keymaster. Is really top tier production. I feel like their boxes and pieces are always really great. But it's a pretty simple card game where there are 3 locations out on the board, and both players will be playing thieves down to those locations to try to control the location at the end of the game. Because if you control the location, you'll get a majority of points there based on the location card. And then there will also be paintings and other valuable items that you can steal from those locations too. And so your thieves can get you points. Each thief is unique. They might get you points if you get sets of different colors of gear on top of them. Like if you have green and blue gear, then you get a point for having this thief. Or so the thieves all do different things. Kind of the unique part of this game is it's a drafting game, is what it's called. So on every turn, both of us will play a card and then swap hands of cards. So I know what cards Devin's going to have next turn. And then I know that hand's going to come back to me the turn after that with something in it. So since you know what you're giving your opponent, you can think a little bit about what they need. And if you're giving something they need that could hurt you or not. Because of that, and the structure is like a little bit to get used to. I know the first play can be a little confusing, trying to keep track of all the cards. And okay, this is going to be back to me in a couple turns, but what's he going to play? And then there is kind of a restriction of I can only play cards if I can pay for them. And there's this kind of unique rule with the coins where there's only 10 coins total in the game. And if you ever earn coins, but you have fewer than your opponent, you steal them from them first if there's none in the bank. So there's a couple tricky like components. Caper Europe is one of my favorite 2-player games. I play it a lot on Board Game Arena, and I've played it quite a few times in person too with my wife, and then Dev and I have only played it once. But so I really like it, but I know there's a little bit of a learning curve there just because I feel like it's fairly unique. But Devin, now that you've played Caper Europe once, I know this wasn't your favorite game, but what were your thoughts?
Like you said, I feel like it takes a minute to learn. Like first playthrough, I truly had no strategy. I didn't know if I should place a thief or try to steal something. There's like color card coordination. I did love the aesthetic of the game. I thought that was cool. But yes, the idea, I don't know if I love the mechanic of the cards swapping thing.
Yeah.
Like, because I want to have my secrets and you have your secrets and we see whose secret is better at the end.
Yeah.
And I was not paying attention to your strategy at all. And so maybe if I was, I could have maybe strategically played something. But sometimes my brain doesn't work that well. And I think I got absolutely clapped in this game. Is that fair to say?
I don't think it was too bad, but I'm pretty sure I did beat you.
Yeah, I mean, it was a pretty game. It's fast, relatively simple, not too complex. Pretty game. Easy to clean up, which I appreciate. It was good. I think if we played it a few more times, I could really like it and have a strategy.
Yeah, I think so too. I think the idea of if they didn't do the drafting mechanism and maybe you each just drew like a secret hand of 7 cards or whatever they were for the round, that would be cool too. I think that would take a little more upfront learning because then you'd kind of have to go through every card in the deck with each person, be like, okay, these are the things I might have and the things you might get. So yeah, that might make it a little harder to teach up front, but that might be interesting.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But the fact that they go back and forth kind of make it a little bit easier because you really only have secrets on the first turn of the round because of that. But yeah, Caper Europe, I really like it. We'll see. Maybe with a couple more plays, I can convince Devin to like it a little bit more. Just kind of a mid game to him, I think, but at least in the gameplay. I know presentation-wise, it's pretty solid.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, those are some fun games. I'd recommend all 3 of those very highly. So check those games out. They should be in the description of this episode if you really want to check them out on Amazon, which also does support the show. So, yeah. That is the video games and board games we have been playing. Quite a bit of news this week, and this first one is such a mouthful that you might fall asleep, Devin, but this first bit of news is actually a new segment we've never had before. It's not video game news or board game news. It is both news, which is kind of odd. But
wow.
All right, this is going to take a bit of reading, so try to follow along if you can, or even skim ahead, or you do you. Number 1 in our both category, and number 1 is the only one. But the Embracer Group, and this is a little bit of background at the beginning here because I don't know if many people will know anything about them. So a little bit of background. The Embracer Group is a Swedish holding company, and over the past decade, they have purchased dozens of video game and board game developers and publishers. There's a lot of people online that have thought, like, there's no way you can manage this many teams, over 100 teams, when like Sony owns like 12. and Xbox owns like 25. And Nintendo, I don't know exactly how many they have because they're all like kind of obfuscated by being like part of it. It doesn't matter. Anyways, they have a ton of assets. They had a fiasco last year with an investment of $2 billion falling through, and they're kind of drowning in debt with about $2 billion of debt. So they are restructuring and selling off some of their assets following a large round of layoffs that they had late last year. Before we talk about the restructuring, I want to just kind of paint the picture for you, Devin, and any listeners for what Embracer Group owns. So here's a little, I'm going to go through this kind of quickly, but it should give you an idea of kind of how big they are. So as of March 2024, the Embracer Group employs 12,000 people across 111 studios in 10 different operative groups. I didn't list even half or a quarter of them, but these were the ones that I thought were the biggest or most important. These are examples of things that they own inside this holding company. Number one, they own Asmodee. Asmodee is one of the largest publisher of board games. They help distribute Pokemon, Magic, and Yu-Gi-Oh! And they own like 12, I think it's actually like 20. I only put down the ones that, again, I thought were worth bringing up. Like 20 board game development or publishing teams. So they own Catan Studio, which makes Catan, one of the most successful and biggest board games of the last 25 years. They own Days of Wonder, another huge one that made Ticket to Ride, and since then have made lots of other big games like Five Tribes, and their biggest hit recently is Heat, which you can see behind me, right behind my chair there is Heat, and I have Five Tribes on another shelf just a couple squares over that you can't see, and I have a Ticket to Ride version, so I have all three of those, and I have Catan, which I just mentioned. Third one is Exploding Kittens. They own that company. I don't have that game, and I know that company has made other games since Exploding Kittens, but that was a big one. They own Fantasy Flight, which is a kind of a staple in board games that makes living card games. So they make the Arkham Horror living card game series, which is a very popular one. Marvel Champions is a more recent one, also very, very popular. And they own the Lord of the Rings living card game, which again, you can see right behind me right here, Lord of the Rings living card game. They own, I think I'm pronouncing this right, Libellule. It's I think French publisher. I don't know every game that they have, but they have some big hits too. I have Dice Forge from them, which again, right behind me, you can see, if I can get my finger on the screen, right there. They own Lookout Games, very popular, like Euro games by Uwe Rosenberg. I think he helped form that company. He's a very popular and famous kind of German designer. That company has published Agricola, Caverna, Isle of Skye, and Le Havre. Very like influential board games in the board game arena. They own Pearl Games. A couple of Pearl Games that I own are Black Angel, which is right above Cryo. You just can't see it on my screen. And Deus, which again I own. It's like a few squares to the off camera. Plan B Games makes Century Golem, again on my shelf back there. Plaid Hat Games, I don't have any of theirs, but Summoner Wars is their most popular board game. Rebel Studio makes Meadow, again right behind my head. And Chronicles of Avel, which I also have. It might also be right behind my head. If not, it's somewhere back there. That's a fun one. I played it a lot with my 7-year-old. They own Repos Production, the company that did Seven Wonders. So, I mean, a lot of these companies are companies that have made very influential games in the board game space. Seven Wonders, Catan, Ticket to Ride. I mean, Lord of the Rings, Arkham Horror. I mean, these are crazy. Space Cow, I have a very simple kind of kid game called Yum Yum Island from them. Space Cowboys, I have Orbis and Skull. And Z-Man Games, I have the two games I've listed here. Z-Man makes a lot of great games, but I have a Feast for Odin and Cryo, and funnily enough, they are right next to each other. They're on my shelf. Anyway, so that's just an idea of how big Asmodee is. They're humongous. And I probably just pointed out 10% of my board game shelf or something. And so Embracer Group owns them. They also own a ton of video game stuff. More video game stuff than board game stuff. The board game I think they just bought Asmodee a couple years ago to try and get into that industry. So the video game stuff they own is a little messy because there's publishers and developers, but they own THQ Nordic, who owns a lot of things. They own Gunfire Games, who make Remnant 1 and 2. I know that one's close to Devin's heart. They own Black Forest Games under that umbrella, who did the Destroy All Humans remakes, and they're working on Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles The Last Ronin, which is based, I think, exclusively on Raphael and kind of a graphic novel that came out, I think, with the same name, The Last Ronin. Bugbear Entertainment made Wreckfest. Handy Games is a German publisher that's done a lot of little things. Piranha Bytes, done Gothic, Risen, and the more recent Alex series. Purple Lamp did the SpongeBob Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated remake, and the Cosmic Shake that came out a few years later, also a SpongeBob game, and they're doing the Disney Epic Mickey remake. Rainbow Studios does Motocross Madness and MX vs. ATV. So just under that one umbrella, they own a lot of stuff there. Then the next one is PlayOn, the next umbrella. And under PlayOn, they own Deep Silver, who makes a lot of stuff. Metro is one of their popular series. Saints Row, Dead Island, Homefront, Shenmue 3, Payday 3, Flying Wild Hogs under there, who did Shadow Warrior 1 to 3 and Evil West a couple years ago. Warhorse Studios does Kingdom Come Deliverance. We'll talk more about them a little bit later. Under another umbrella, they own Tarsier Studios, who did Little Big Planet Vita, Static, which is a very fun PlayStation VR game that I liked a lot, and Little Nightmares 1 and 2, another game series I know Devin likes. Under a different umbrella, they own Limited Run Games, who prints physical versions, kind of limited runs of physical games. So games that wouldn't, like, I'm not sure, but I think they maybe like printed like 2,000 physical versions of something like Hollow Knight that wouldn't usually get a physical release. That's what Limited Run does. They print kind of limited, exclusive kind of physical editions. They also own Middle Earth Enterprises, which owns the video game rights to The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings. That by itself is like a huge deal. Other than that, they own Crystal Dynamics and a lot of the IP that Crystal Dynamics made. Tomb Raider, Legacy of Kain, and then some other IP like Deus, I don't know how to pronounce this, Deus Ex, I think, maybe, and Thief. Aspyr did port of Civilization 6, Torn, Lucasfilm Games, and the Tomb Raider 1-3 remastered that just came out. Tripwire Interactive did the Killing Floor series. Zen Studios does a lot of pinball games. So that's the video game stuff. Apart from that, they also own Dark Horse Comics. That is probably, I think their Wikipedia said they're the fourth largest comic book, what would you call that? Creator, publisher, company. Sin City, Hellboy, 300. So a lot of licensed stuff with Star Wars and things like that done there. So they own a lot of stuff. Had you, other than the two I pointed out that you obviously care about, Remnant and Little Nightmares, was there anything else there that I guess you had heard of before, Devin, or played?
Tomb Raider remastered.
Oh,
I
yeah.
actually didn't play that, but I know of it very well.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep, the Tomb Raider IP.
It seems like they just have their hands in everything.
They have so much. So much. Anyway, so they're breaking up into 3 entities now that I've kind of given you an idea of all the things they own. The 3 entities are Asmodee Group, that will continue to do the board game stuff. That makes sense to split that one off. Second one is these last two, they gave weird names. I don't know why they did this, but this first one is going to do their indie and like we would call it like A or AA games that aren't like, they're just like less expensive to make and generally like not always like lesser quality, but smaller in scope because they cost less. So Coffee Stain and Friends is the name of that entity. And the third one is going to be for their AAA development, and it seems like the focus there will be a lot on Lord of the Rings. The name is Middle Earth Enterprises and Friends, which sounds like it could be a fun sitcom about a hobbit being friends with an orc. But anyway, so they're splitting up into those 3 different entities. This has kind of been a big deal. over the last week or two. I don't know that it will change too much. Basically, they're splitting up also the debt they have. So they have, I don't know the exact numbers, but about $2 billion of debt. And they're going to split it up between those entities. I think one report said that the Asmodee entity is going to take about $900 million of debt, and the rest will be split between the other two. So they are now going to be 3 different entities, maybe to kind of get rid of the Embracer Group name, because I think they kind of have a negative connotation at this point just because of how often they've been buying stuff, and then kind of they're falling apart in the last year. So anyways, look out for those 3 new names: Asmodee Group, Coffee Stain, and Friends, and Middle Earth Enterprises as Friends, if you want to invest or buy stock on the Swedish stock market.
Very unique names.
Yeah, kind of weird. This isn't like super exciting to me, or like that intriguing, but it was such a big piece of news that I thought I had to at least mention it. And I thought it was kind of fun to at least list out all of the things that they have their hands in. This kind of reminds me, this is a weird reference, but just listing all of those things, and it's like a company from Europe, like that's a huge conglomerate holding company, reminds me of the company Madrigal from Breaking Bad in the last season. It's this huge German company that does like a million things. They have like restaurants, and in the beginning of the episode, it's this German guy like testing different kinds of fry sauce that they're going to try with their chicken nuggets. But then they have like their arms and everything, and one of them is selling, Walter White's drugs. And yeah, I don't know. It just seems like some like dark entity that shouldn't be as big as it is, and it's just kind of blobbed its way over hundreds of other things. But I don't know. I really like indie level and A and AA level games, so I hope that they can be a little more careful in what they do going forward, because I know a lot of people have kind of predicted that they were going to implode at some point, and they just kind of did. So I hope that they can be careful, because they own so many good things that I would hate for kind of their whole thing, company to fall apart, and some of those properties not get, not see the light of day anymore, or not get picked up by another publisher or something. So I hope they're a little more careful from this point on. But that is the first segment we've ever had with a news item from video games and board games. So if you care about that, Embracer Group is now 3 different entities. There you go. Next one, we're going to talk about video game news. As usual, we have some free games to talk about in video games. I guess some of these aren't technically free, but if you are subscribed to the appropriate level of subscription, then they are free for you to download. On PS Plus Premium this week, they have 4 new trials. That's a perk for being on Premium, is you might get a trial of a game. All 4 of these are 60 minutes, except for the first one, which is a 30-minute trial, which doesn't seem worth anything to me.
Small.
But, yeah, but that's for Exoprimal, which is a very interesting looking game that kind of has like dinosaurs everywhere. I don't know how to pronounce the second one. I would say Greece, but I think it might be Gree. I don't know. That's a very artsy game that I've played a little bit of. Seems fun. Kind of a artsy puzzle game. Shadow Warrior 3 and Trek to Yomi. Trek to Yomi I've been meaning to try out, so I think it might be on extra though, so I don't think I need the 1 hour trial. But if you want to try any of those 4 games, you now can. And then the Epic Store, like always, has their free game every week. They have 2 this week. First one's called Industria. It's a first-person shooter set in Germany. And I guess from Germany, you also travel to a parallel dimension. I thought this one looked like it could be cool. I hope that the like first-person shooting mechanics are solid, but the art looks cool, and kind of the world that you're in, I thought looked cool. Second one I didn't think looked near as interesting. It's called Lisa the definitive edition. It's a very, very violent pixel art game, which they claim is a narrative RPG. So kind of looks, just very old school. If Mario was killing every Koopa that he saw, and blood was everywhere. So that's Lisa, the definitive edition. And then just want to do a quick call out. We already kind of did, but there is the May saving sale on PlayStation Network. And since I primarily play on PlayStation, I know a lot of these like sales and free game sections are sometimes favored towards the PlayStation Network more than like Xbox Store, which I think is the Microsoft Store, and Nintendo, but I do try to bring those up when I can. So sorry if I've missed any of that stuff, but it didn't look like there was any new Game Pass games this week. And there was a Nintendo sale that I think was ending, but I don't think they have any new ones coming up. So anyways, that's all the free games this week. Okay, we've got some game updates or reveals for the next few. There were updates for 3 indie games coming to PlayStation. I believe these are also coming elsewhere, but PlayStation was the one that did the marketing release for them. First one was Darkest Dungeon 2, a sequel to the very popular Darkest Dungeon. It comes out on July 15th, and it has a new art style, which I thought looked pretty cool. They call it 3D art, and they have full character animations. I played a little bit of the first one, but it's a very daunting game. It's a kind of turn-based game where you're like, what's it called? It's not a squad. You're in a turn-based game, you generally have like a party. Your party stands on one side of the screen, and the enemies you're fighting stands on the other side of the screen. And then you fight them and just see how long you can last. And this game's incredibly difficult. It's kind of known for being very difficult. This new game looks like it has kind of a new like backdrop when you fight of like your, what's that called? A horse drawn carriage pulling you along, and then the characters actually move and do like animations when you do attacks and stuff. That's a very, very popular game, so I think that will be a big hit. So that one's out July 15th. Next one was Five Nights at Freddy's Help Wanted 2. This came out on VR already, maybe even last year, and this is a flat version is what they call it. So it's been kind of reworked so that it will work on a TV with a regular controller. So that comes out on June 30th. If you like, what do they call it? FNAF?
FNAF.
I don't know if anyone says FNAF. If you like FNAF and want to play this one on a flat screen, there you go. And the third one, I thought the vibe of it looked pretty cool, but I didn't think like the gameplay or the graphics looked that interesting from the trailer they had. It's called V Rising. Comes out this year, no date other than 2024. And it's what they call an RPG survival game where you must kind of defeat Dracula because he hasn't been the best steward of the race of vampires, I guess. So check that out if you're interested in Dracula and vampires. I really love like Castlevania and kind of that vibe. So I hope that it is super solid because the vibe looks cool.
Yeah, really unique graphics.
Yeah. So if the gameplay's super solid, I'll be there and would love to play that, but we'll see. Okay, another couple quick reveals here. This one I thought looked really interesting. It's called Tales of the Shire, a Lord of the Rings game. No, let me correct myself. It's not a Lord of the Rings game. It's Tales of the Shire, the Lord of the Rings game. Gotta have the in there after the just to confuse the crap out of me. Yeah. It's a new game just announced coming out in the second half of this year, coming to Switch, Xbox, PlayStation, and PC. And in this game, you farm, fish, make friends, cook, decorate your hobbit hole, and explore the town of Bywater, which in the trailer, they made it sound like is in the Shire. So you're a hobbit running around doing Shire things. I thought the kind of the art direction and the graphics look pretty cool. Kind of going for a Stardew Valley, but not kind of top-down vibe, it looked like. So I'm very picky with those kinds of games. They are sometimes too don't want to say boring, but that's kind of the word that came to mind. Too slow to me. And so hopefully it can be exciting, have enough going on. I like I said, I kind of like the vibe though. I think this was made by, what's it called? Weta? The company that did the special effects for The Lord of the Rings. They've been pretty well known for being pretty cutting edge, and I think this is their games division. So I don't know. I hope it's great. I think it looks cool, but I don't know. I would love for the Lord of the Rings game to be great. Such a weird thing. Why they probably like legally have to put the in there. Tales of the Shire, the Lord of the Rings game, because that's the full title. But it just seems so weird. The Lord of the Rings.
Oh, I don't like it.
Yeah, it should just be a Lord of the Rings game in my opinion, but whatever. So if you like Animal Crossing, Stardew Valley, maybe check that out. Seems like it could be cool. Next one, we just talked about, what was the name of this company that Embracer Group owns? I think Warhorse Studios was the name. They made Kingdom Come Deliverance, and they just announced the sequel. Kingdom Come Deliverance is coming out this year. Some of the details they released in the blog post are that the map is 2 times bigger than the first game, and the story is much longer, has about 5 hours of cutscenes, which is about double what the first game had. You play as Henry, a young man who's on a quest to avenge his murdered parents. I like the vibe of this game, at least from the trailer. It looks cool. It kind of reminds me of something like, it's not exactly this, but like Braveheart, but not Irish or Scottish. Now I can't remember what race they were in Braveheart, but yeah, kind of a vibe like that though. Very old school fighting. It's like first person. I hold up my shield and I smack in my sword, and there might be a trebuchet somewhere behind me or something. But the graphics look good, and it seems like it could be fun. I've been meaning to check out the first one, but I've never gotten around to it. Have you played this, Devin? I think someone recommended it to you in your stream a few days ago that you might like Kingdom Come Deliverance.
Oh, I think you're right. And is a trebuchet a catapult?
Yeah, it's like a special kind of catapult that kind of like flips under itself and uses gravity, kind of like a slingshot. Right. Okay. Yeah.
But no, I don't know anything about this. It did get suggested to me, but I completely forgot until this moment.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know. If you like Kingdom Come Deliverance, which I think the first one sold really well, there was kind of this controversy, which was not a real controversy, but an internet controversy before the first game came out, that I guess like a few websites posted articles saying, why is everyone white in Kingdom Come Deliverance? And so that ended up like kind of blowing up. It was like a big deal.
Really?
But I think all of that controversy just drew more people to the game, and it sold really well. So happy for them, Warhorse, that they were able to make a sequel. I hope it's great. So check that out. Comes out later this year. Next one looked interesting. I'd never heard of it. It's called Imagine Earth. It's a city building strategy game. Kind of reminded me of something like SimCity. The vibe kind of looked more like StarCraft, but I don't think, because it's like a little sci-fi-y, like you're building these civilizations on different planets, but I don't think there's any like fighting like in StarCraft. So I think it's more like SimCity, where you're just like kind of building like these civilizations on different planets. It's coming to PlayStation on May 9th on PlayStation 5. It came out a couple years ago for Xbox and PC, so this isn't a brand new game, but it has reviewed pretty well. It's got an 83 on OpenCritic, which is in their strong category. Anything in the 80s is pretty dang good. Like, that's something I would generally be pretty open to play if I'm interested in the game. So check that out if you like that kind of SimCity game. The next one I'm really excited for. There was a game that came out a couple years ago, I can't remember which year, called Tales of Iron. And it's
the mouse
kind of
game?
a Metroidvania. Yeah, you play as like a rat.
Why do I know this?
And
I don't know.
Maybe you played it on the stream. It was a few years ago, but the sequel is coming out later this year. And that was already announced, but there were some outlets that had a chance to play the game this last week. And so some previews have come out. And I thought some of the things that they noted in those previews were cool. So Push Square is the one who previewed this one. And they said it has a day-night cycle now. You can also go out and hunt giant monsters. They show like an image of a big snake monster. And I guess they said one of the inspirations seems to be Monster Hunter, because you have to like knock parts off of those big creatures before you can actually do damage to them. And then you obviously get a lot of like resources from those monster fights. There's also a customizable town hub, and the character will have grapple, like a grappling hook to grapple at different grapple points. I just said grapple like 7 times. And you can traverse the map faster with better fast travel.
Yeah, if anyone's at a browser, they should look this up at the art style. It's super, super cool.
It is. It's like flat almost. Like it has a weird like kind of 2D drawing vibe. Very cool art style. I really liked the first game. I almost platinumed it, but I think you had to beat the game on like the ultra hard difficulty, and game's already pretty tough. It kind of has like Souls-like combat a little bit. It's not like near as difficult, but parry and block timing and unblockable like attacks and things like that. One of the polls for the first game was the voice actor that did Geralt in The Witcher. His name, I guess, is Doug Cockle. I didn't know that, but that's his name. He's the narrator in the first game. So if you've played The Witcher like that.
Oh, the voice
Geralt's
actor
voice.
in the game, The Witcher.
Yep.
I was going to say, I think it's Henry Cavill, bro.
Oh, yeah, no, not in the TV show, in the game. But he's returning. He's also doing the narration in this second one. So, yeah, I'm excited for that. What's it called again? Tales of Iron
Looks
sequel.
sweet.
It's just a little bit bigger. I love the art style. So I hope they get rid of the trophy that's beat it on ultimate difficulty, because I don't know, that was a little too much. But I did everything else in the game, I think. And it was very fun. Definitely recommend Tales of Iron if you need a Metroidvania that's pretty tough, but solid and not too long. I bet it was 15 hours or something for me to get almost everything. You could probably beat it in 10. But anyways, very fun game. Next one is a very quick one. Synth Riders is the name of this VR game that's getting a new music pack, which is out now, actually. It's called 80s Mixtape Side A. The 5 new songs are Take On Me, We Built This City, Whip It. I didn't know how to pronounce this song by Phil Collins. Sussudio?
Sussudio.
I'm not sure.
Oh.
Sussudio. And the last one's New Sensation. So there's 5 80 songs in that game. I watched the trailer. The game looks kind of cool. It's very much, I think, shooting for the... every time this game comes up, I can't remember what it's called. The lightsaber game. The Beat Saber vibe. But instead of lightsabers in this one, you have to like hold your hands and you kind of have to like rotate them when following these lines, like in like kind of a circle instead of slashes. Anyways, kind of a similar vibe. Got a new music pack. So if you like that game, check out that. Next one I thought was interesting. Have you ever, Devin, played Pac-Man Championship Edition or Championship Edition 2?
No, I don't think so.
I think they might have been called like Pac-Man Super Championship Edition. Anyways, very fun games with like unique spins on Pac-Man. And basically it's like an arcade game. You're trying to get like the highest score you can, and it's all about the leaderboard. Like, I gotta have a higher score than my friends. Very fun. This one looks different, and so I'm not quite as excited about it. It's called Pac-Man Mega Tunnel Battle. Chomp Champs. Kind of a mouthful of a name. It's out on May 9th. And this is kind of like a Pac-Man Battle Royale idea. So 64 players in a match. You each start in your own maze. And then it sounded like from the blog post, when you get enough of the dots in the maze, then these mega tunnels open on the sides. And you can go through a mega tunnel to go to another player's maze. And they might still be in there. And so you can kind of interact with the other player too. and eventually you can get knocked out if the ghosts get you and stuff. And so then the last person standing of the 64 wins. It looks like it could be fun. I hope that they lean into like the leaderboard, get the best score, like really solid like mechanics, when it kind of looked like they were leaning into how do we make this Pac-Man Fortnite where you can buy as many like outfits for Pac-Man as possible and sunglasses and funky hats. So I don't know. That one is a mixed bag for me. It could be cool.
Yeah.
I really loved those two other Pac-Man games I mentioned, but I'm not 100% sure on this one. Art style is a little more cartoony too than those other ones. All right, next one. I don't really play Fortnite, but there was... Yeah, let me just read it. So Billie Eilish is going to be the next Fortnite festival, like a musician that takes, I think they call it the main stage. And since that was announced, it seems to like confirm a bigger Fortnite leak that came out earlier last week. And so since that happened, which seems to confirm that leaked image, it seems likely that Metallica, Karol G, and Snoop Dogg will follow as the next guests on the Fortnite festival. And the rest of that image showed like what's coming up for Battle Royale, for Rocket Racing, and for... I think there were 4 segments, and I can't remember what... Oh, and Lego Fortnite, right, is the other pillar. And so let me read here some of the things it said. That the Battle Royale roadmap might be confirmed to be Apocalypse Season 3 with Pirates of the Caribbean and Metallica characters, a Marvel season with the Fantastic Four, Fortnitemares, and some more Lego Star Wars stuff. You can see the full like leaked image online if you Google it. I didn't type out everything, and some of it was a little blurry, and I couldn't exactly tell what it is. For people that are really into Fortnite, I think you could more quickly tell, like, oh, this is this and this is that. But that was what I was able to glean from it. So if you want to know what's coming to Fortnite, it seems like this roadmap is probably true since this Billie Eilish thing is happening. They may change it, pull something out just to kind of mess with the leak. But that was the plan, it seems like. So for anyone that plays Fortnite, check that out if you're so inclined. Number 10, Dragon's Dogma 2 is having a new patch this month. Hasn't come out yet, I don't believe. But the main thing that people are talking about, excuse me, is in this patch they're going to be nerfing Dragon's Plague. At least the 2 things they mention is it will be reduced in frequency and easier to notice if your, what do they call them, pawns, have Dragon's Plague. I think their eyes are supposed to like glow more or something. I was going to ask you, since I didn't get to watch too much of your Dragon's Dogma 2 playthrough, was this Dragon's Plague something you ran into? Do you think this is a good change or bad change?
I'm unsure about the change because the only thing I really noticed about Dragon's Plague was the pawns or my character friends in the game talked about some faraway myth about something where it could take over your body and you wouldn't be able to control your actions or something. But honestly, I got to end game in this like quick section I was on. Actually, I won't spoil anything for anybody that hasn't played it, but basically it kind of like skipped. I feel like it skipped over that, and I don't know.
Okay, interesting. Interesting to hear that it didn't really, affect you. Yeah, I think that a lot of people online have been saying they don't really like that change, but I think you're right that the Dragon's Plague was supposed to, if you let it get bad enough in your pawns, I think they would start acting strangely or even like start attacking you because they didn't know what was going on, something like that. But keep an eye out for that if you're playing Dragon's Dogma 2. That's another game that's been calling my name, so I guess I will be taking a look at the Dragon's Plague change. Next one, really quick. I think it's Kena, even though I didn't say Kena. But Kena Bridge of Spirits has been rated for Xbox. Seems like it's finally hopping over to a different platform. I'm assuming PlayStation paid them quite a bit of money for don't put this anywhere except for PC and PlayStation for 2 years or whatever it was. I thought this game was pretty solid, especially the art and like the animations, like very impressive. I think they were that company was co-founded by people from Pixar, maybe, and you could tell like it was very, like, yeah, I don't know, the animation work was just really solid. As far as like the gameplay and the combat, it felt a little old-fashioned to me, but the combat was pretty good. I did finish it and see it all the way through. So,
Same.
Did you like Kena, Devin? I know you played it.
I have the exact same opinion as you on it, to be honest. Beautiful game, and I think that's why I bought it. It was just so visually appealing and relatively Souls-like. But from what I remember, it's been a while. I think I played it right when it came out. The combat wasn't perfect, but still worth a playthrough.
I agree with that. I think it was maybe only $40. So if it, it's kind of a budget price, which I think is right for that game. So if you can get it maybe on sale for 30 or 25, then, and you play on Xbox, then I think it's pretty solid. If you like kind of games that seem a little old fashioned, but look really pretty. Last one in video game news, Nintendo Live, which I guess is some live event that Nintendo holds occasionally, is going to be held in Sydney, Australia this year on August 31st and September 1st. Nintendo's Twitter account says, quote, "Friends, families, and fans of all ages prepare for Nintendo Switch gameplay, live stage events, photo ops, and more at this in-person event. Stay tuned for more details." End quote. I don't really know anything else about that. Doesn't seem like it's a place where they reveal like a ton of new things. More just like a fan event to come buy merch and hang out. And they do say prepare for Nintendo Switch gameplay, so maybe they'll have one or two cool things to show or something. But anyways, if you want to go to Nintendo Live, I guess start prepping your tickets for Australia, and you have a lot more money than I do. So anyways, that's the video game news for this week. So board game news, got a few items here too. A couple of these, well, this first one is a little more corporate, so I don't know that it's incredibly intriguing, but just wanted to call out Goliath. They're a Netherlands company behind Rummikub, which is a pretty popular game. I think we even had that one, as teenagers, Devin, at home. And they also make other family weight games kind of similar. But they're buying publisher Lucky Duck Games. I really like Lucky Duck. Goliath bought the assets to Funko Games, I think probably 4 months ago or something, which was a little bit of a bummer because the Prospero Hall team was shut down, and that team was really solid. They made Disney Villainous, which I have on the floor over here, Horrified, which I've played because my cousin owns, and Pan Am, which, you can see it behind me. It's right there. I have Pan Am, really like that game. So I'm a little bummed that Prospero Hall was shut down. But this purchase, they're doing a little differently. They've said that Lucky Duck will stay an independent studio underneath them, so nothing's being shut down, at least at this point. Lucky Duck is mostly known for Chronicles of Crime, which, again, I have one of those on my shelf, but not the first one. I have the futuristic one. I think it's Chronicles of Crime 2400. And they're pretty fun games where you have to have like an iPad or something set up. So they're like half digital, half physical. But you basically play as like a Sherlock Holmes character, and there's some crimes that have happened in different cases in a box that you buy. And then in each scenario, you'll go around to different locations, talk to different people, look at different bits of, what's that called? Look at clues and evidence to try and piece together what has happened. And kind of the cool thing about that game is it also has these kind of VR segments where you can actually buy this little, I think it's plastic, it might be cardboard, I think it's plastic thing that you can slot your phone in so that it sits on your eyes like a little VR headset. And then like I went to this location and I need to look for clues, and then you actually look for them in VR, like on the screen.
Wow.
And so you do a lot of that. The cards in the game, you have to like scan to say like, okay, we're going to look to this location to talk to this person. It's a fun game to play in a group because you can all like make decisions together. Like, we need to go here and figure this out. So just a fun game. Lucky Duck is really great. They also published Flamecraft, which again is on my shelf behind me. And yeah, they're just pretty solid team. So they've been purchased by Goliath, hopefully with no major changes. The next one I thought was kind of interesting just because it's a super unique game. I haven't played it, but just seeing this expansion that's coming out has made me want to maybe play it. So number 2, kid-friendly skirmish game called Necromolds Monster Battles is getting an expansion. The expansion is called Call to Arms, and it should be out towards the end of April, they said, at least to buy on their website. So the game has you mold your own character out of clay or Play-Doh kind of stuff. And I think there are these molds that you kind of like press down on the Play-Doh, and like it'll pop out and look like a goblin or whatever character you want it to be. Kind of a cool idea. I think it especially is good for like it's a pretty solid game from what I've read, but you can also like play it and kind of help out your kids play it too. So it kind of has that dual purpose of being like an entry level game for kids, but has a little more meat for somebody that wants. And the Play-Doh pieces do look really cool.
They look way sweet, yeah.
Yeah. The expansion says it adds stabbing the clay models with swords that come with the expansion. So I guess you actually get to like stab things into them, which is kind of silly. And it gives you more pieces so that you can play with 4 players instead of 2. Very cool vibe. I love it when games do that. We just talked earlier in the show about, I briefly mentioned Chronicles of Avel, which is like another game that's pretty dang solid, and you can play with kids really easily. They get to draw their own character, and so I like it when companies are able to bridge that gap, which is probably very hard to do, to make a game interesting for adults, but also accessible enough that like a kid can play it and not be too lost. So very cool. Wanted to call that one out. Number 3, we've been talking a lot about Dredge lately. I've been playing. I haven't quite finished it. I've kind of fallen off a tiny bit, but I probably played 15, 18 hours. So I think I'm pretty close to the end. Cool vibe. We talked a few weeks ago about how it's being adapted into a movie. And now this week, we got some more news. A new card game was announced. This game is called Deep Regrets. And they were giving kind of a list of the things that inspired this game. And the first one was Dredge. Second one is classic Cthulhu story, The Shadow over Innsmouth. The Hellboy comics and Scooby-Doo cartoons were listed as the other inspirations. I think this game looks really cool. The art is awesome. Very much kind of looks like Dredge, in my opinion. And it says it's a 2 to 5 player dice game that plays in about 90 to 120 minutes, about moving your ship around and catching like either really beautiful fish or like really eldritch and disturbing creatures. Then you can mount your best catches as trophies on your ship, and you try to avoid too much madness and regret that you can, I think, get from catching these eldritch things. I think it looks really cool. It's coming to Kickstarter in June, but just wanted to give that shout out since we've been talking about Dredge so much, and it just seems to keep coming up.
This game's got some of the coolest cards I've ever seen.
Yeah, they're super cool. Yeah. Just weird creatures. And even though they're weird creatures, the art is done like just cartoony enough that it's not like super creepy. Mm-hmm. It's like a little more like playful. Yeah, I think that one looks really cool. I'll be definitely checking that out when it hits Kickstarter in June. Next one, Dungeons and Dragons. I don't know how often they do this, but every once in a while they release like a new core rulebook with updated rules. Wow. For as long as I've known anything about Dungeons and Dragons, they've been on 5th edition. But since that is 5th edition, there must have been 4th, 3rd, 2nd, and 1st edition at some point. But they are going to be releasing what I imagine is 6th edition. I don't know enough about Dungeons and Dragons, but it does say that they're releasing new core rule books, so I imagine that's what that means. And as the last official module before that happens, they're releasing Vecna Eve of Evil. Vecna Eve of Evil on May 21st. So if you like D&D, I've never played, but some of my neighbors play often, and I know they really like it. I'm afraid to try. I think I would maybe get too sucked into a tabletop RPG, and I kind of like the smaller, more contained experience of like a hobby board game. But yeah, I don't know. I don't want to judge it at all because I don't know much about it. But anyways, if you're interested in that, it's May 21st. Dead by Daylight is a popular video game. I know Devin's played it a bit, and it was made into a board game a couple of years ago. And in that board game, I think it tried to emulate the video game quite a bit. You have some killers that are running around, and the player characters have to run around and do things before being killed. And there are a bunch of different ones you can choose from in the game. It's getting an expansion. The expansion is $40 and adds 2 new maps to play on, 3 new killers, and 4 new survivors to the game. Released towards the end of the summer. And I think the board game's been pretty, at least critically, well liked. A lot of board game adaptations of other IPs are not great, but it has a very solid 7.2 on Board Game Geek, and anything above 7, in my opinion, is like, okay, this game's good enough that I might love it. I might not, but really there aren't. I think the highest games are in the 8s. I don't even think there are any that have a user score in the 9s. So a 7 is like very, very solid for BGG. So if you like Dead by Daylight or have that game, look for that expansion at the end of the summer. Okay, the next 2 are tabletop RPG callouts I just wanted to make. Again, we talked about this briefly with D&D. I don't play tabletop RPGs currently, but they are kind of part adjacent to board gaming, so I wanted to call these out. This first one because I think it's kind of funny. Helldivers 2 is an awesome video game, and there is a fan-made tribute to the game in the form of a tabletop RPG called Helldroppers. So if you want to play a tabletop version of Helldivers 2 with your D20s and creating your own characters, then you can download Helldroppers, which is free because it was fan made. So check that out if you're into that scene. And the next one on itch.io. Itch is like a super indie game store. Like anyone can just make an account and sell stuff on there. I've bought quite a few things on Itch actually. Usually like print and play roll and write board game, like a roll and write game. Or a few years ago they had a similar bundle to the one I'm going to tell you about in a minute for video games, where it was like get 500 or 1,000 super indie, but 1,000 video games for $5. And there's a similar bundle sale for charity going on right now. So it's called the Tabletop RPG Bundle on Itch. For $8, you can get about 400 items, and about 100 of them are role-playing game systems. They also have another bundle that's $15 that gets you 200 tabletop games. So the money from that first bundle, the $8 one, I think the bundle name has this in there too, but the money from the charity bundle will go to PCRF, which is the Palestine Children's Relief Fund, which gives better access to medical relief, food, and water for Palestinian children. And those bundles run through the 5th of May. So it's kind of a cool initiative to do something good in the world and help some people that need help. And I think it's really cool of these game kind of developers that decide like, yeah, we want to be part of this initiative. We'll throw our game in there. And I don't know all of the details of the deal, but I'm assuming they throw their game in there for free, knowing they're not going to earn anything. It just is going to be part of this bundle. But there are those bundles if you want to support a cause and get some tabletop RPG stuff at the same time. Okay. Last bullet here for board games is I'm introducing a new, I won't call it a new segment. It's a segment within a segment, but I'm going to call it Crowdfunding Corner. And basically this is just a tiny little segment where I'm going to mention, or we can talk about any games that are in crowdfunding. So that can be on Kickstarter or on GameFound that I've been thinking about or looking at in the past week. So this week I've got 2, well, just one, and one of them is kind of a sneak peek. So the first one is Earth Abundance. So this is the expansion to Earth. One of the, I keep saying this with the games I'm talking about, but this one really is like one of the most popular games of the last year. Yeah, I feel like it's kind of, It's probably not to this level, but it seems like the new like Wingspan level hype game. Earth has been very popular. It's a really fun game where you're building this ecosystem. I think Devin's played it with me once on a family reunion. I don't know that you'll remember, but you build this ecosystem of cards, and in this tableau in front of you, though, it's 4 cards by 4 cards. So you'll have up to 16 cards in your little ecosystem. And then those cards will trigger different things, and you get to activate them from left to right, top to bottom every turn. And whoever's turn it is gets to choose an action of, I think, 4 different actions. There's like a green, an orange, a blue, and a red action. They do have names like growth and whatever, but whichever action they choose, they get the top of the action, which is like the major action, and every other player gets the bottom of the action, which is the minor action. So you get to do something on everyone's turn, which is a good feeling to not have to just wait for your turn to come back around. Earth is great. This abundance expansion, I think it adds support for a 6th player, adds a new resource type called seeds that I think lets you can like get rid of seeds to draw a number of cards from the deck to like cycle through the deck quicker and hopefully find exactly the card you need. There's a bunch else in that Kickstarter page. They are like reselling Earth. You can buy Earth and this expansion together, and this really cool add-on that has like 3D printed, I don't know if they're 3D printed, but these new sculptures for the trees and the leaves they look really, really great. Because the base game comes with like wooden pieces that are also really solid, but they don't quite have that uniqueness. I'm not going to be buying that add-on because I think Earth already looks pretty great on the table. Earth Abundance, I imagine, will be a big hit just because of how big Earth has been. So check that one out on Kickstarter. I think that Kickstarter runs through the first week of May, so maybe even just through next week. And then the next one is just like a tiny sneak peek. I don't know anything about it other than I saw an ad on Facebook. But Fractured Sky is a game that we've talked about a few times on this podcast. And I know Devin's played it with me. And it's a really fun game about kind of keeping secret information for yourself and then sending troops out onto the board to get these cool Starfall pieces. And yeah, I really like the game. You could only buy it through their Kickstarter last year. It's being reprinted and coming back to crowdfunding. It's not on crowdfunding yet, so this will be like I'll bring it back up again in a couple weeks or a month or two when that actually happens. But the Facebook ad I saw also mentioned an expansion too. So that's the part that I'm more interested in since I already have the game, is what could that expansion add? I hope that it can, in some small way kind of help with the tiny quibble I had with the game, which is that I think you can get a little bit lucky by, going somewhere and getting a few Starfall on accident. Or there's just a lot of hidden information in the game. So we'll see what that expansion can do to shake that up just a tiny bit. So in crowdfunding corner in the future, I'll bring Fractured Sky up again when that pops up. But a little sneak peek there. So that's all for crowdfunding corner today. Cool. We kind of blew through that news. I didn't give you a chance to say anything about any of it.
This has been lovely for me.
Yeah. I hope you didn't mind.
No, just a lot of learning for me as well.
Fun. All right. Well, this episode, I know Devin has a hard stop, or as we, I think in the corporate world, they say, do you have a hard out? Like, do you have to leave at the end of the meeting?
Mm.
And so I know you have a hard out in like 30 minutes. So we're going to take just like 20 minutes or so in our closing segment. Maybe not even that long. We'll see. But Devin, you talked about Fallout earlier and how you've been playing those games. And it seems like everyone right now is also playing those games. The news article I have listed here in the document says that, we already read it. We already talked about this. So there were 5 million players in one day due to that TV series coming out. So I wanted to talk about any gaming memories we have from like the game of the moment, the game that it seems like everyone is playing. And I've written a few examples down here, but I'm sure that there are others as I add a couple right now. The first one that came to mind for me was Pokemon Go, which I don't even remember when that came. It was probably 10 years ago. My wife and I were living in our first place we owned. It was a little duplex, and we didn't have any kids. And I remember I only played Pokemon Go for like a week or so. Thought it was kind of just okay. But what a cool idea to like have to go to different places to find different Pokemon, and kind of used Google Maps data to say like, okay, this is in the neighborhood. This is a point of interest. This, whatever it was, a bakery or just a small little park or a forest. Yeah, I don't even know. And so it used those kind of things to get people out and about. I remember walking around the neighborhood and there being literally dozens of people with their phones out walking around to different places, flicking their phone, throwing Pokeballs. And it was just kind of a funny moment because it seemed like everybody in the world was playing that game. Did you play Pokemon Go, Devin? Or
more than
have
I
any
should
experience
have.
Seeing people walk around?
Yeah. We had a hack, though. We were on longboards, so we would ride our longboards around and
smart.
try to get Pokemon. I don't even think the game's downloaded anymore, so it may have been a slight waste of time, but it was fun. It was a good time.
Hey, you were outside getting some vitamin D, and it sounds like you were getting some exercise on the longboard, so couldn't have been too bad.
And trespassing.
Yeah, that was a funny one. And trespassing, huh? Is that why the police were here?
Yeah. No, there'd be like I don't know, a Vulpix or a Hitmonlee or something like right behind a fence, and it was like, should we just briefly hop this fence to get that or no?
That's funny. Yeah, that was a good time for a minute there. I haven't been super into Pokemon since I was, 9 and playing Pokemon Red, Blue, and Yellow. But that was a fun moment of like little resurgence. And I feel like that moment brought Pokemon back in like a big way. It's been surging ever since then, I think. So Pokemon Go, I think, was a fun one. Yeah, we don't have to talk about every single one of these, but the next couple that I remember from being a teenager are, and when Halo 2 especially like came out, I remember everyone in middle school was talking about it. And the thing I remember about this one was at my middle school, we had like a week, I think right after Halo 2 came out, where they had back-to-back like assemblies or events going on. So school got out at like 3 o'clock, and at like 1:30 we had an assembly one day, and then the next day again at 1:30 they had like a school dance. And I was going to go to my friend Alex's house where there were like 4 of us that were going to LAN party all these Xboxes together to play, to play Halo. And he had this big projector on his wall, so we could play it. At least one of them could play on a huge screen, and we play with a bunch of people. It was super fun. So we ditched. If you're listening to this, don't ever do this. But we ditched school that first day when the assembly started. Just kind of walked. We had the school building, and then we had those portable units behind the middle school for the extra classroom space. And so my last class was in one of those before the assembly. And me and my friends just kind of walked towards the school and then turned and went a few blocks down the neighborhood to his house. And the 10 of us just had a blast. And so that day we were only able to play 4 players though, because we didn't know we'd be able to just get out. So we were all planning that day. Okay, tomorrow Dave is going to bring his Xbox, and so is Brian or whoever else was there. And so I have my honker of an Xbox in my backpack the next day. And for some reason, the teachers had gotten smarter, which was a real bummer. So when we left the portables the next day, when it was the school dance, the teachers had made this they were blocking all the exits. They must have watched the cameras and seen us all leave. And so we weren't able to leave. So I had to go to the school dance with my backpack on, with this humongous Xbox in my backpack, and we were all just like crammed in this tiny, school gym, and it was hotter than crap in there. And nobody was even dancing, but we were all sweating to death. And I had my Xbox in my backpack. That's one of my memories of that. We did
That's
after
amazing.
the dance was over. We went to my friend's house and did play Halo 2, which was a blast. But yeah, we were really mad for like an hour that we didn't get that extra time to play Halo. And I feel like that was a big moment when Halo 2 came out. But yeah, I don't feel like there's been a shooter that was that big of a deal, like that the whole world was like, Halo 2 comes out, since then even. Can't think of it. Maybe Call of Duty.
Yeah, maybe Call of Duty.
In those first like few years when it was like really fresh. When Black Ops first hit and stuff. But anyways, that was my funny Halo story. I've got a few more here that I could maybe talk about, but I don't want. I've talked so much. Any like gaming memories that you can think of, Devin, on big games like this?
No, not really. I feel like I remember like Super Smash Bros being very big and everyone talked about it for a time, but I don't know that it really fits the category.
Oh, I think that's great. I just have all the stories today. I remember me and my friend Patrick, he had Super Smash Brothers, but I didn't. And so we would spend the night at his place pretty often to play that till really late. And there was this little like fruit stand around the corner from his house that sold fruit out front. And then kind of you walked just past the fruit stand. It had like a little like convenience store looking thing that was tiny, and they had candy in there, and they sold penny candy, so you could get a brown paper bag and just get like Sour Patch watermelons and the raspberries and whatever else you wanted for a penny each. So we'd each take $1 and just go to town there, get 100 pieces of candy, and then play as much Smash Brothers as we could. So that was my Smash Brothers story. But yeah, that was a fun moment too. That is kind of the hard part. I feel like a lot of our, at least my gaming, especially growing up, was like behind what was going on in the world. Like, when I got my Game Boy Advance, I think like the DS had been out for like 2 or 3 years already, and we were playing like Mega Man on the NES because we didn't have the Super Nintendo yet. And so I feel like we were behind on a lot of stuff, maybe, that growing up at least, that kind of makes it hard for us to even remember that, because when you're a kid you don't have the money. I couldn't go to the store and buy a Super Nintendo as a, when did that come out, 94 95 or something, so as a 4-year-old. But so yeah, that does make it hard.
And it was also hard to kind of know the game of the moment without knowing like what was happening at GameStop or Walmart. Like,
yeah,
we didn't really have, we didn't have social media, and so
have a car to get there. And yeah, so it kind of was late teenage years, I feel like, before we started playing games that were actually recent.
Yeah,
the last couple I wrote down here were I feel like when Bloodborne, Sekiro, and Elden Ring especially came out, I feel like everyone was playing those, and those were fun to play like concurrently, because we'd be like texting you, and like our cousin would also be playing. And especially with Elden Ring, I feel like even more people were playing. But those were always a fun time to play if you knew other people were playing. Like, hey, did you get to this boss yet? And like that cool ape boss in Sekiro that kind of has that secret thing that happens. And did you get to that point? Yeah, and kind of that like excitement of beating a boss and trying to catch up, and Devin always being farther ahead than me.
I was gonna say, and me always just obsessing over the game and beating it in 2 days.
Yeah, and then basically you, at least in Bloodborne, then you carrying me through the last half. So yeah, those were like a memory I had too. And then I don't play this game anymore. We talked about it earlier in the news, but when Fortnite came out, right after PUBG, that was like a big moment too. We're like, what is this new game that drops 100 people in this weird island? And that was a cool idea for like a minute. I feel like they've milked it, and that's not really fresh anymore. But man, Fortnite's making so much money, and so many people still play it. It is a very cool idea.
It is.
I hope that new genres will continue to spring up like that, because that is a cool idea, like or a cool feeling when you play a game that's like, I've never played something like this before. Like the first time you played a VR game, or like the first time you played Fortnite, or the first time you played, I don't know, a Souls game. You're like, wow, I did not know a video game could do this.
Battle Royale changed PvP. It used to be like 6v6 or something on Call of Duty was like the maximum. And all of a sudden, you couldn't spawn kill anymore. Everyone's dropped on the map at the same time, and you have to watch every angle. Nothing is safe. It really was a big, big difference.
Yep. Yeah, it really was. Yeah, so I feel like that was a fun one to kind of be around for that kind of the pop and bang that it had. And then in board games, there's not quite the same level, I don't feel like, but Wingspan was kind of a big deal. I got that one. That was one of the first like hobby board games that kind of got me into the hobby like really deeply. And yeah, I felt like that one was being played everywhere too. And anytime I bring up like at work, like, yeah, I love board games, or when they see my backdrop, because I decide not to blur it or something one day, they're like, oh yeah, have you played Wingspan? I'm like, yes, I've played Wingspan. Played a million other games too, but Wingspan is a great game, and it deserves all that praise. It's pretty, it's really solid, very pretty game. So that I also like. There's a good feeling about getting a game on, and this is kind of where they'll get me and all my money, which is a bad thing. But getting a game through Kickstarter, usually when you get a game through Kickstarter, you can get like all these fancy perks, like with Fractured Sky we talked about a few weeks ago, and I think I even showed the pieces. You get these nice magnets and these nice ships, or you can pay $50 more to get all your ships painted like these beautiful colors. I didn't do that, but so you can get like high-end, like cool, exclusive stuff. And the other perk you almost always get with a Kickstarter game is you get it before it goes to retail by like, a month or something. So there's always a good feeling about like, I'm one of like a couple thousand people that actually have this game, and it's not even in stores yet. And so that's always a fun feeling too. Like I just got Skyrise, which we talked about last week, and yeah, that one's really fun too. Not out in retail that I'm aware of. So those are fun. That's kind of the main way that I feel like board gaming has a similar feeling. Because with video games being mostly digital nowadays, like they can release a game and have it be everywhere. But with board games, like there's usually a lag. Like a game like World Wonders that I just showed, I think it was made in like Brazil or something. And so there were some like reviewer, like the Dice Tower, like imported a copy from Brazil once they heard it was going to be localized. So they got their review out and played it like a year before most people did. So there's a bit of lag, like waiting for things to come from Germany to America to a different country, and then it needs to be translated to a different language, and there's shipping times, and we can't get 100,000 copies of this to America until this point. So board games are a little different in that way, which is interesting versus the instantaneous nature of digital video games nowadays. But yeah, I feel like Wingspan and Kickstarter are kind of the two big ones that have kind of felt like, ooh, I got the shiny thing of the moment. But yeah, that is always a good feeling. What are any video games or board games coming up this year that you think might kind of have that similar vibe? The first one that came to mind for me is Shadows of the Erdtree. I'm guessing will kind of have the same vibe where everyone goes back to Elden Ring.
Oof. Oh, for sure. That DLC is going to be crazy. Yeah. I think a lot more people will buy the Destiny DLC as well, just because it is the last one.
Yeah, that's a good call out. You're probably right.
I might even get it just to rekindle the memories and then just give up the series. I don't know.
Yeah, kind of have some closure with it. That's a good point. Yeah, I feel like Destiny was another one of those games that when it first came out in 2014, I feel like everyone was playing it for a while. And then some people decided this is the only game I'm going to play, and played it forever. And I beat the main campaign. And I was like, I think I'm out. But Yeah, that's another one. That's a good call out. Yeah, Elden Ring. I feel like if Silk Song, which I will talk about every episode if I can, if it does come out soon, which it seems like it's going to, I think that'll be one as well that everyone is playing and talking about for at least a few weeks. It's not as big or high profile as, Elden Ring or Destiny, but I feel like it'll be a big moment, at least especially for a team that small.
Yeah, I will definitely 100% Silk Song, unless it's got some ridiculous quest that's makes it unachievable without hundreds and hundreds of hours.
Yeah.
But
man, the platinum for Hollow Knight is incredibly difficult.
Really?
Because you have to finish the I forget what that's called. There's a DLC pack that they did after there's a few different DLC packs they did. One of them introduced like the Nightmare King fight, which was a pretty dang tough fight. But then the next one is called like Gods and something, and it introduces all these like, what would you call them? Like boss fight rush kind of rooms, and you have to complete all of them.
Is it like waves of enemies?
I think it's waves of the bosses.
Wow.
And if you lose, like, you have to start the room over again. So you might have to beat like 8 bosses in a row. And then like the last boss is like the hardest version of the Hollow Knight, the final boss in the game. And so incredibly hard. I used a cheat for that DLC to get the platinum because it's a little crazy. Yeah, Silk Song will be a lot of fun for sure. Well, cool, Devin. Any other games you want to talk about here? I think we might be able to wrap up.
I am going to a basketball game.
Yes, you are. You're not playing.
I'm not. I'm just parenting siblings, so I've got to drive them there.
How is his team? Are they good?
Yeah, I think they're
their butts kicked.
They're
good.
2-2 right now, maybe. So yeah, doing decent.
All right, better than the Jazz then. So
yeah, truly.
There's that for them. Cool. Well, yeah, I'm gonna see if there's a NBA playoff game tonight. That would be a fun thing to watch too. And man, with this unlimited data thing we just got from Xfinity, we also get Peacock Plus. And there's a lot of shows on there that my wife and I have been wanting to watch again. Mainly The Office, Parks and Rec, and Brooklyn Nine-Nine. But man, that's like 1 million hours of TV right there. So we'll see. We might watch some of that as well.
Yeah, we also got that the Peacock Plus bundle with that, and you're gonna come to find that there's also a Peacock Plus Premium, which is truly no ads.
Yeah.
There's
the Plus version has
tier,
ads.
Bro.
Yep. Oh yeah. Yep. If they can milk more money out of you, they always will.
Yeah, sadly.
So, all right, man. Well, this was a lot of fun. It's kind of a news-heavy week, so I feel like we just kind of randomly chatted and then had a bunch of news in the middle, but that's all right. It was still a fun episode. I think it went pretty well, all things considered. So with that, we're going to wrap up. Thanks so much for listening to episode 4 here of the Super Game Brothers podcast, a video game and board game podcast. Remember, please check us out on Patreon. That's how we will keep the show going into the future. We hope you'll check out our exclusive episodes, the access to write into the show, to get early access to the show. So please check us out over there. Check out the rest of the content we have up on Super Game Brothers. I will have at least 13, but maybe like 15 to 20 segments of my Prince of Persia playthrough up there, as well as some other games I'm planning to at least try the demo of, and some other fun stuff there. Check out our Instagram and TikTok accounts as well. I've got some fun trivia kind of videos going up there. Guess the video game based on a sound effect or some music from the game, which I think are fun. And same thing with board games. Can you guess a board game using just the piece? So check those out. Make sure to check out Devin on Twitch. That's weekdays at Player4. Playing a lot of Fallout right now, but he kind of plays everything. Variety streamer.
Oh, you never know what you're going to get
extraordinaire.
over there. It's insane.
Yeah, it's a good time though. All right, man. Well, anything else tonight for you that you've got planned after the basketball game, or is it straight to bed after that?
It's snoozing all night.
Snooze time. Cool. Well, I wish you the bestest of dreams then, and hope that you do snooze all night. And with that, we will get out of here. So thanks again, and we will see you on the next one.
Bye-bye.
Adios.